This is mostly audio only. It's not Canon, but yeah, it is technically part of the series. So if you wanted some kind of fancy visual thing, I can only provide pictures because I'm too lazy. But yeah, enjoy. This is the world of those brick rig skits. An incredibly weird world that I somehow made up about 2 years ago. And basically, I felt like I wanted to make talking vehicles, but they don't actually have faces. And because of that, I ended up starting this, which if you're here, you're probably from episode 1. If you're not from episode 1, go watch episode 1. It'll be linked. But yeah, I created it just because I wanted to and because it gave me something fun to do. Originally being recorded on a literal tablet, um, showing a camera to the screen. And yeah, it was not good. But eventually, I decided, you know what? What if I make this into an actual YouTube video? So I piled everything into different softwares like CapCut and OBS, and I basically put all that together, and now I have this. Uh, CapCut's what I use to edit. OBS is what I use to record. And I actually make everything in brick rigs. And yeah, this is actually so all the pictures you see they're from a game technically. It's 14.99. Go play it. Go find it on Steam if you can. And yeah, let me actually get into the lore. The vehicles don't have drivers and they don't have any kind of anatomy. They're just machines, basically. How do they work? That'll be explained in a later episode. But for the basics, basically there is a special fuel used. Keep in mind it's in the future. Uh, and there was a special fuel that the humans made that they were going to experiment with. They put that into a tank, and it actually started it up. Basically, made it talk and all that. No anatomy, no nothing. I guess it's just magic because I do not want to have to go through the horrors of what cars did when it comes to anatomy. Yeah, they're vehicles. They can't feel pain. They can't die. Um, they're just vehicles. They can control all of switches, levers, or throttles inside them, all that. And yeah, they basically do that, and they can move around. After one of the vehicles ended up staying on Earth because the humans left because they wanted to. Um, yeah, after that, the vehicles ended up building a kind of society because they were there, they had nothing really to do, so they wanted to do something and actually become influential to the earth. And they did that, and eventually, years pass, and then that gets to those brick rate skits. The skits themselves are basically just of the characters going about in their city. Nothing really lore based yet. Um, yeah. I'll actually get actual lore, like lore later. Um, and that'll come in a later episode, all that. But this is the basics. They can see out of any windows or viewports. So like on this carrier here, it could see out all of the windows, ATC tower, bridge, all that. Along with on a tank, it would be a cupola, like the hatch. They could kind of see out that. That's their visual. Um, no eyes because that's kind of a horror thing. When it comes to vehicles. Um, and that's basically how they work, where they came from, all that. Almost everything is alive. Planes, boats, cars, any kind of vehicle. And yeah, most of them are actually alive, but there's some aren't because they're not just brought alive by some mysterious process. There's actually a process that goes into it, which will be discussed in later episodes. It's a kind of modified fuel, as I said earlier. But yeah, that's the basics on how they work. I'll get into the world and the map right about now. The world, they actually inherited it from the earth. So there aren't a lot of differences in cities. Some cities might be different though to accommodate the vehicles. Like, they obviously need bigger doors, larger interiors, all that. And mm, that's how they kind of renovated the city to actually meet their needs. And yeah, some of them actually use garages to actually, kind of have their living space. Some of them use houses. But most of them, all they pretty much need is a place to, um, get a repair or just, watch a TV. Because most things are actually voice activated instead of being, remote control, like remotes with small buttons. But yeah, they do not really need living quarters or like things to eat or drink really. They obviously need fuel to function, but they don't their consciousness is not determined by fuel. Yeah, they do obviously need fuel to move, but if they ever, because they run out of fuel or some other mechanical problem, they usually call a tow truck because those are there. Most of the stuff you can see a pizza place in the background, but oh, why would that be? They don't eat. Well, some of the stuff that they have is still from the human era, and they don't demolish it either because it has a heritage or because that will cost too much money. And most buses or taxis are used for transporting goods instead of transporting people like they are, which actually gives buses a purpose. From this point on, there'll be different audio because my microphone on my headset died. So sorry for low quality. This is just kind of an intermediate episode. Getting to next. Some vehicles are actually from different eras. Some might be from the 1940s, some might be from the 2020s, because when humanity left the Earth, they only brought their futuristic vehicles with them, the vehicles that they actually used at the time. Mm. That was like, I don't know, your Tesla Cybertruck or anything like that. And some of the futuristic vehicles did stay behind, so that'll likely be why there might be some, in the show. But some are actually much older vehicles. Like in this image, the gray tank, a whirlwind, is very, very old, whereas the white tank, an SPA, is actually very modern. Mm. Well, not necessarily modern, more necessarily futuristic, you could say. Yeah, so another thing is that there might actually be tanks on the road, because they're vehicles too, and they're in the society, and it's likely that there'll be lots of them because there's lots of tanks. And since it's not just this city only, it's also other cities, other places on Earth. It's likely there's going to be tanks of different nations too. But that's why an image like this looks completely normal. Or two tanks in a parking lot looks normal. Most of them actually have no ammunition, so they can't fire at other vehicles, which is a fail-safe that they use, just in case a tank wanted to do that. They actually have ammunition shops where they have to go buy their ammunition. So an image like this here would be normal. Since there are lots of different regions of the Earth, there are lots of different areas that the vehicles reside in or just generally go about their business in. There might be deserts, there might be cities, there might be other areas. And every area likely has its own services, fire, police, and, DOT. Mm. And, they reside there or they exist there. And that's pretty much it, actually. That's pretty much the entire Those Brick Skits explanation. So I'll be saying goodbye. Made by Anonymous 97, recorded in Brick Made in Desktop CapCut, recorded by OBS.